Okay, so another way we can nest conditions is by using logical operators. So let's take a look at how those work. I'm going to create a new file, text document, and we'll go logical.java. And I'll go ahead and drag that into Notepad++. And let's go public class logical. And public void name string args. And let's set up a couple of variables here. They're going to be booleans, so I'm going to declare boolean a equals true and boolean b equals false. And let's set up a print statement. So what I'll do here is set up some simple print statements to demonstrate how we use logical operators. So let's go A, and we'll start with the first one, which is this double ampersand, which basically just means and. So it means this and this should evaluate to true in order for me to return true from this. So one is true and one is false. So this is true, A is true, B is false. So this condition is not going to come out correctly. So when I run this, it's going to come out false because not both of them are true. They both need to be true in order for the entire Boolean condition to evaluate to true. So if I put true here, they're both true. So A and then B evaluates to true, I get true back. But if I set it back to false, goes right back to false. Now the other thing that's kind of tricky here is if I set both to false, you may think that because they're the same, this double NN, these both things are both the same thing, that it would evaluate to true. But it does not, because they're both false. So two falses cannot evaluate into a true. So the only thing that would actually make this statement evaluate to true is if both things were true. So let's take a look. I'll just comment that out for a minute. And let's take a look at another one of our operators, logical operator called the OR. And that's made by holding down Shift and hitting the backslash button twice, and you get those two vertical lines. And this means if either A or B is true, we evaluate to true. So I get a true here because even though that B is false, my A is true. I only need one of them to be true, so I get the true. So that would also work if I had false here and true here. And if they're both true, of course, it evaluates to true as well. And the only way for this one to evaluate to false is for both to be false. So then I get the false return. And so one more thing we want to do here is we want to cover the not operator. And even though we've covered this one before, we want to make sure we do a good thorough job and say that it is in fact a logical operator, so we should know that. And any of these logical operators that evaluates to true, it's going to make false. And since this one evaluates to false, it will do the exact opposite. It's like an opposite switch for anything to the right, and it will make it evaluate to true. Here, let me just comment this out and you will see that evaluates to true. Now, one thing that might get kind of confusing when you're nesting like this is that the not operator only operates on the item that's directly to its right. So if you want something complex like this that has multiple items, you got to put it in parentheses to tell Java that we want this not operator to operate on the entire thing. So that's about the simplest demonstration that I can really come up with. Let's go ahead and move on to like a practical application. Let's say I wanted a program that's going to pick a number between 1 and 10. there's a couple different ways I can do it. Since I'm obviously going to be using user input here, let's go ahead and import the scanner. Oops. Accidentally hit control there. And scanner object. Okay, and I'm going to prompt for some user input. And I'll say pick a number between 1 and 10. And I'll set up a variable for the input. Let's call it a guess. And you'll find out why I'm doing that later. And now I'm going to set up some conditional logic that's going to check and make sure the user's putting in a number that is in fact between 1 and 10. And the way I'd normally do it with what we were doing before, I would say if guess is greater than or equal to 1, we do this, and then we move on to the next. If guess is less than or equal to 10. But since we have logical operators, we can do this in an even better way, which is using the double ampersand or the AND operator. I can say if guess is less than or equal to 10. So both of these, so this is, in this case, this is my A and this is my B, and they both need to evaluate to true in order for us to get our positive feedback, which is a print statement that tells us the number is right. Now, if you've used other programming languages before, you'll notice that Java makes you type out the entire Boolean expression on both sides. So you can't get away with putting one guess in the middle and putting the greater than or equal sign on both sides and having 1 and 10 on either side. That doesn't work in Java. You have to have a true false here and a true false here in order to be able to use this logical operators, or any of the logical operators you have to be able to do that with. So just keep in mind that you've got to type out the entire Boolean expression in order to be able to do that. And then if I get it wrong, I got to have some feedback that says, let's go with wrong. And so if I run that, I can pick pretty much any number between 1 and 10, which you can see, but the minute I go over 10, I get the wrong message. So that's a pretty fun, easy example of how to use logical operators with our conditional logic to make things a little bit easier.